As we know, the Prime Minister has made a Brexit breakthrough with the European Union today, securing a deal which we all hope will solve the divisive Northern Ireland Protocol. The President Ursula von der Leyen may have given a little bit away about the European attitude towards the European Union, or towards the United Kingdom, sorry, at her press conference earlier today.
I think important is, in our Windsor framework, that we are putting also in place several mechanisms that should avoid having to resort to the storm and break, which is an emergency mechanism. So extensive consultations with the UK and Northern Ireland stakeholders on new EU laws, but also consultations of the EU by the UK on UK planned regulatory changes. This is important for us.
Oh, well, what a mistake at a maker, as they used to say on a lower low. It appears the President has not quite got her head around the intricacies of the relationship between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. But let's now turn to the brilliant David Davis, who was the former Secretary of State for exiting the European Union, a very distinguished Conservative politician, stood for the leadership several times and has been at the forefront of Conservative decision-making for at least 2 decades. David, thank you for coming in.
My pleasure.
What do you make of the deal?
I think it's a very good deal indeed. I mean, you may not remember, Jacob, but you were the first person I discussed resigning with when I was Brexit Secretary. And you may remember the reason I resigned was, in essence, because Theresa May had agreed, quotes, full alignment between the north of Ireland and the south of Ireland. And that drove a coach and horses through our ability to maintain our sovereignty, keep democracy in Northern Ireland, etc., etc. And that's troubled every leader since, every single leader. And I didn't really think we could solve it. I thought we would end up with some cobbled together mess. And what Rishi seems to have done is effectively solved the problem. You know, what for your viewers, what's happened is that we have an undertaking whereby if a piece of European law is to be applied to Northern Ireland and the Northern Irish Assembly, the Stormont, doesn't like it, they can basically veto it or effectively veto it. That's an astonishing success. You know, I didn't think we'd get there. So he's been very, very, very clever in the negotiation, and that's in addition to all the other bits and pieces. You know, sorting out the border in the Irish Sea, sorting out things like plants and pets and VAT right across the board. He swept away a huge number of things which I considered to be almost offensive in the deal we were doing.
Well, I agree with you. The veto is the most important aspect of it, isn't it? That no new EU laws can come in if Stormont and HM government say no. And that is something I think both you and I thought the EU would be very unlikely to give. The other were sort of minor annoyances. They always had to give way on medicines.
Well, they were quite big annoyances.
But medicines was something that was never going to be a long-term problem because the EU was bound to waive that. But the veto on laws, I think, is fundamental.
Yes, I think so. And also the other aspect of it is they have reduced the number of laws that apply anyway. Your viewers again will say, well, why should European laws apply to Northern Ireland? Well, it's because it's got a land border with Southern Ireland and therefore it's part of the same marketplace. And a lot of businesses in Northern Ireland want to sell to the south. So that's why the Northern Irish accept that. I think in Northern Ireland, I would be surprised if this new deal doesn't get 75% support in Northern Ireland. I really would. And that is astonishing. It is, incidentally, I mean, you and I were on different sides in the last leadership contest, and I supported Rishi because I thought he was the cleverest. And I thought with the problems we were facing, whether it's Brexit or whether it's the Ukraine or whether it's all the other issues that are troubling the world today, needed somebody very, very smart indeed. And I think we've seen the result of that today.
And do you think that means he's got Brexit done?
Broadly, yes, I do. Broadly, yes, I do. I think Brexit's going to go... I mean, 2 things I think are going to come... Well, 3 things come out today. 1, a good deal for Northern Ireland. 2, basically the end of the Brexit story. There will be details, lots and lots and lots of details in perpetuity, but basically end of the Brexit story. 3, it will be his first very big success, and probably the biggest success, other than, I guess, the 2019 election, of any Prime Minister for some years.
And the DUP, where are they, as far as you can tell at the moment?
Well, first thing to say is they had, so again for your viewers, they had 7 conditions, right, that applied. Yeah. And I know the Prime Minister took those 7 conditions with him to every single negotiating meeting. And he's tried very hard to meet them. Now, it's their judgment, not his or yours or mine, that matters in this. But I think when they look at it, they'll firstly find that, broadly speaking, he's met all 7 conditions. And secondly, they'll find, as I say, it's pretty popular in Northern Ireland amongst the small business community which support them. And I think that'll influence them, at very least, to abstain.
And Sir Geoffrey was very moderate/welcoming in his comments in the House about an hour ago.
Yeah, but like all parties, I mean, Sammy Wilson will not be quite so,
yes, indeed.
and so on. So there will be a spectrum within them. So I suspect they'll end up abstaining rather than supporting. But even so, I think that will be massively important within our own party. There'll be a lot of our colleagues who will look to the DUP and say, what are they going to do? If they vote against, then I can't support the government. There'll be quite a few in that position. I would be tempted that way. I'm not, but I could easily be tempted that way because of my affinity for them. So I think, in truth, they will enable it. And what was interesting to me as well, just as an aside, Labour supported, but so did the SNP. That was quite extraordinary. This is going to be a motion that comes before the House, which is going to get about 95% support, and it turns out.
Yes, indeed. And it may be that this deal means we can do more in terms of the supply-side reforms that we need to get the economy growing, because we can now do them for the whole United Kingdom.
Exactly. We can do it for the whole UK, so that'll be important. I think it'll be, as a big success for Rishi. I actually think this may well be a turning point for the Conservative government, because so far, I mean, from when he came into power, there's been non-stop onslaughts of one sort or another. As I say, international, national, the industrial relations problems and so on. Now he can turn to those domestic issues, as you say, ranging from supply-side reforms to sorting out the public services.
And because they'll be countrywide. So the VAT acceptance that Northern Ireland can now have lower VAT rates along with the rest of the UK means it opens the floodgates for supply-side reforms.
I think so. Across the board. I mean, the next test, of course, is a little closer than that. Of course, the next test is the budget.
Indeed.
A couple of weeks' time. And if we had our way...
Well, let's not go into that, because we're being very positive today. But thank you, David. It's such a pleasure to have such a distinguished Tory on with me.